Okay, my perspective about it is, well, first of all, I want to make absolutely sure that when your viewers are watching this and they're saying tiki and things, that the tiki, the Polynesian pop tiki culture that is prevalent in the United States has very, very little to do with real Hawaiian culture and spirituality. So when we use the phrase Aloha spirit and things like that in sincerity in the pop tiki culture out here on the mainland, that it's meant with love. It truly is, and the Aloha spirit is what we when we use that. It really does mean sharing and seeing our friends and being there for them and sharing our creativity and our love, and that's really what it's about. And it does make you, you know, when you do say that you're here and there's the aloha spirit and you want to share it with your friends, it is a sense of mindfulness, because it does make you pause and really think about what you're doing and think about what you're seeing and think about what energy in yourself that you want to put out to others so that they get that vibration of happiness from you and peace and love.
Namaste, sweet souls. My name is Shilpa, and you're listening to the Omni Mindfulness Podcast. I am a mindset and meditation coach for professional women and mompreneurs. The purpose of this show is to offer stories and content that allows you to increase your awareness of your authentic self and be inspired by connecting to the personal and professional stories of other souls. Souls who are walking the walk and living everyday human experiences with inspired intentions. These are the stories that will expand your consciousness and spark within you to ask, what if? Each season, I offer content to help you create a holistic lifestyle that embodies spirituality, mindfulness, mindset, and energy awareness. Through my conversations with experts in their niche area and solo casts from yours truly, my intention is to help you holistically revitalize, reset, and relax your body, mind, and spirit. I'm your host and founder of Omni Mindfulness. So ask yourself, what if just one story could be the catalyst to shift the trajectory of my life? What if I become instrumental in serving other souls to realize their true self? And what if my soul's higher purpose is in the realization of Omni Mindfulness joy? It's never too late to rewrite your story. And now, today's episode. Welcome back, sweet souls. This is your host, Shilpa. I wanted to share some exciting news about a little challenge I'm running as I'm trying to get more people to discover this podcast and the conversations that inspire those who value personal growth. And the best way to do that is to leave reviews. You can leave a review on Spotify, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcast. So my request to you is to leave a review if you feel that you've received any value at all from these episodes of Omni Mindfulness. It would mean so much to me if you could write a little review regarding any episode that resonated with you. Please take a screenshot of that review and email it to me at omnimindfulness@gmail.com. In return, I will offer you my one-page guide to spark your meditation practice through Sankalpa. Sankalpa is a Sanskrit word for intention setting. Along with this, you'll receive a link to my guided meditation that will guide you through an intention setting meditation, positive affirmations, which you can practice daily. I guarantee that this gift will help you start a daily intention setting practice with a spark. It is my gift for you for being a listener, being a supporter, and of course, to enable you to manifest the best meditation practice. We are now in the season of reflections, which is my 4th podcast season, highlighting spirituality, mindfulness, energy awareness, and mindset. Next up is Kari Hendler. Kari is a California native who spent 35 years working in the sitcom television world, primarily as a script supervisor. She's worked on some legendary TV shows including Hot in Cleveland, Frasier, Reba, The Golden Girls, Roseanne, and Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, which starred a young and then unknown Ryan Reynolds. When she wasn't on a Hollywood soundstage, Kari worked at her second career as a photographer and magazine writer. In that arena, she is especially known for photographing magicians and live events for various publications and writing articles about Tiki and Hawaiian culture. For 9 years, she was a writer, photographer, and an assistant editor of the popular subculture Tiki Magazine. And she has been a staff photographer for both Genii and Magic magazine for almost 20 years. In fact, her love of the art of magic motivated her to create an ongoing magic art history project called Nothing Up Their Sleeves, where she has cast the hands of some of the greatest magicians of our time, with the hope that this still growing collection will eventually find a permanent exhibition space where it might inspire future magicians and magic fans. Her other areas of passionate enthusiasm include Disneyland. She's a former Disneyland cast member and Disney's Imagineering history. She loves great architecture and the science surrounding environmental protection and preservation. One of her favorite mottos is, "The ultimate fan transcends fandom and does it herself," which is a phrase she uses to explain why she actively participates in many of the things that interest her. Kari's feelings is, if you're really a fan of something, try going beyond just being a fan and actually getting involved in it. Learn about it and try to add your own special abilities to that thing you love by creating something in that area. This mantra of hers makes for a full life, too full at times, which is why mindfulness and meditation has been something Kari has been learning about and practicing in recent years. And now, here's my friend Kari. All right, Kari, thank you so much for being on this show. I'm excited. We've been talking about this for a while now.
We absolutely have, and I'm truly honored that you asked me to be part of this. You know,
Well, you've been part of my life for so long now, and I've always had a connection, but we sometimes we're like two ships floating, at a tiki party.
this is very, very true. It's like, hey, it's great to see you. Hug, 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 and then we. So, I mean, I suppose all of this that we're talking about has a connection to mindfulness too, being present for your friends and your family and connecting with them,
Connecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even on that topic of connecting, maybe we can start with the aloha around how we know each other.
Aloha, Shilpa. Well, we met, I'm trying to remember what event which tiki event we went. It's probably one of the Tiki Calientes in Palm Springs, I'm guessing.
I
Many years.
Many years ago. It might have been well, like maybe close to 10 years ago.
I think so.
Yeah.
Omni was just, I think you were pregnant with Omni when I met you.
Been, I think I was pregnant with Omni. There's so many pictures of him.
That's a while. So how are you? I'm really excited about this topic with you because it's something that I've incorporated in my life and continue to work on for the past several years. And I know that you have been doing this for a long, long time. And I mean, you're really at the forefront of, the whole mindfulness. I don't want to call it a movement so much, but awareness, I would say.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that all the things that you're passionate about, you've done something with in your life too, that you've actually, done podcast shows and written articles and done all that stuff. You're not just sitting by the sidelines. You're very, very active. And I find that incredibly admirable.
Oh, I really appreciate it. And I know that you and I have had a connection not only with the Aloha spirit, which we can get into for a moment, but also just through sometimes exchanging messages with you. We talk about just the spirituality of being human and sometimes recognizing that there are tough moments and having the ability to stay mindful of what other people are experiencing and then kind of reaching out. And you've reached out to me at different times, and I've always appreciated it.
Thank you. Happy to do so. You're worth the effort, Shilpa.
Well, you're worth the effort also. I wanted to maybe start off by even maybe give us the background on what people don't know about the Aloha spirit and how it ties to mindfulness, and at least your perspective.
Okay, my perspective about it is, well, first of all, I want to make absolutely sure that when your viewers are watching this and they're saying tiki and things, that the tiki, the Polynesian pop tiki culture that is prevalent in the United States has very, very little to do with real Hawaiian culture and spirituality. So when we use the phrase aloha spirit and things like that in sincerity in the pop tiki culture out here on the mainland, that it's meant with love. It truly is. And the aloha spirit is when we use that, it really does mean sharing and seeing our friends and being there for them and sharing our creativity and our love, and that's really what it's about. And it does make you, you know, when you do say that you're here and there's the aloha spirit and you want to share it with your friends, it is a sense of mindfulness, because it does make you pause and really think about what you're doing and think about what you're seeing and think about what energy in yourself that you want to put out to others so that they get that vibration of happiness from you and peace and love.
Absolutely. I like the fact that you took a moment to even say, look, we honor and we respect and love the original Polynesian culture. And it is, in my mind, implicitly, we are honoring it, perhaps maybe in a more modern pop culture way. Mm-hmm. However, we're doing it so that that vibration, that we could still spread it, because there's so much goodness in it. And there's an energy that I think a lot of us get excited about.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, and you know, for example, I'm wearing a pendant from one of the events, one of the popular tiki events that, you know, it's done by the artist Shag. And this isn't a real tiki god. This is a made up thing, but it's fun. It's a memory of a wonderful event that we went to, and it's been done by a great artist. But no, I would never sit there and say, well, this is Polynesian culture or any stretch of the imagination. So, but yes, I love that sort of community that we both share with that, and it's true, and I love the energy about it and the people involved, and the true aloha spirit that we have brought to that community.
Absolutely. And I feel like, especially post-pandemic, a lot of this now really recognize the value of coming together, having a meal together, enjoying music together, because I feel like we get so caught up, at least I'll speak for myself, is when we are working and dealing with life, it's often so difficult to detach and say, maybe it's time to enjoy the moment.
We as a species have, especially Westerners, have really lost touch with how to do that. And I think the pandemic, for as terrible as it was, also did make people have to stop and not distract themselves with outside shiny objects, because we couldn't go outside. We couldn't go to movies. We couldn't go to dinner, out to restaurants. We couldn't go any of that stuff for a while. It made us actually sit home, either by ourselves or with our families, and really examine our lives and slow down. And that has been, I think, in a weird way, a gift. I mean, and all the things that were, that were difficult and still are difficult about the pandemic. In a weird way, you have to sit there and say, when you go through a difficult situation, my feeling is always, take that time to stop and say, what am I learning from this? What gifts am I getting from this?
Yeah.
You know, and I think the gift has been for many people, not everyone, unfortunately, but for many people, it's been the ability to really sit there and take a closer look at their lives and what they want to do with their lives, and how they're living their life, and to really appreciate more of what they do have. And so mindfulness, I think we have so many distractions these days. And it's even with meditation. I remember when I first started studying meditation, one of the exercises was, close your eyes, sit, breathe, focus on the present. And this is where mindfulness and meditation are, they're like this. Focus on the present. How long can you focus on where you are right now, the present moment, your breath, what's around you, without your mind suddenly going, oh, I got to pick up more eggs at the market. Oh, that's right. The dry cleaners. Oh gosh, I got to make that phone call again. What time do I have to be at that thing? And it's amazing. When I first started doing this, I could maybe only focus for 10 seconds before my mind would go to something I had to do or that needed doing, or something that somebody else said or whatever. And so mindfulness has to be very focused and present in the moment. Life, as we know, as we both get older, not old, older, as we both get older, we see, doesn't time speed up so much now? It goes so fast. And if you don't stop and pay attention to the moment that you're in, and what's around you and everything like that, it's going to go by even faster. And all you're going to remember are the big things, the birthday parties, or the trip that you took, or things, somebody's death, somebody's birth. You only remember the big flashes, and instead of the daily beauty and the daily things, that we take for granted. For example, it's so silly. My apartment is being remodeled right now, so I have no internet in my apartment because it's been taken out, and it's full of workmen pulling out tile and sawing drywall and all that stuff. So I actually had to drive up the Pacific Coast Highway, find a place by the side of the road in my lovely Prius. The ocean's right out there behind that fence. Hope for the best for internet connection. And, it's it's one of those things where I went, this is not this podcast that I'm going to do with my friend Shilpa today. It's not under the ideal conditions. I'm not sitting there in some, in my lovely office, with a bouquet of flowers next to me. It's not, it's not these, you kind of hope sometimes people think that meditation and mindfulness, you remember, you're probably too young for this, but there used to be a series of commercials by General Mills for international coffee moments. And they had all these specialty coffees.
I remember those.
And the woman would be sitting there and gazing out the window of her clean, beautiful house. There was no distractions, nothing was going on. And this magical elixir of coffee beverage would transport her to Vienna or someplace. And, we always hope that, we always think that, to meditate and be mindful and all this other stuff, that your life has to be in that sort of perfect thing. But I'm telling you, my apartment's being torn up.
Yeah.
I'm up the highway with dodgy internet connection. But at the moment that I'm talking to you, I'm also looking around. I'm hearing the ocean behind me. I'm seeing at least 8 shades of green on the mountain across from me. I'm feeling the ocean breeze through the windows, and I'm seeing how beautiful my friend Shilpa looks and how glowing she is. And I'm thinking to myself, aren't I lucky that I'm sitting in a car that operates, that I have a friend who wanted to talk to me about this, and that my apartment's finally getting remodeled after 6 years. So, that's the thing too, the appreciation, and about it all. And people say, well, how's the best way to get into mindfulness? What's the best tool? What's that little click? And it's gratitude. If you want to be in the present moment quickly, there are several things. There's a 5-5-5 breathing exercise, which I do. which is where you breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, breathe out out of your mouth for 5 seconds, and do that several times. Your whole body will just get in this wonderful state, and then start doing gratitude exercises, which think about everything so far in your day today that you're grateful for. And it may be something as, the fact that you woke up, that your legs work and they hit the floor, that I could smell since I'm staying with my mom while my place is getting remodeled, that I could smell the coffee that my mom was brewing downstairs.
Oh, yeah.
I know that would get to you because you and your
know.
mom and all that, So, I mean, and that will put you in a state of mindfulness very quickly. And then you can go right from that point. Once you feel that gratitude, you've done that breathing, that state of mindfulness, the ability to be mindful comes very quickly. At least that's how it works for me. How about for you? Have you found a technique that works for you to get into that state?
Yeah, it's funny. While I practice this and while I do it and teach it to others, I can say that I'm constantly my worst critic of, am I doing it well enough? What I've integrated and changed the routine of my day that's really helped me become, I feel, more present in my life is I start my morning with writing down what is my intention. It could be the same intention for every day, but I literally force myself, even if I'm in brushing, like, okay, my intention for today is to be more compassionate with my loved ones. Then I move on to gratitude, and it can change every day, but sometimes it's the same list. It's a list that I write out. But what's interesting is that I remember the other day I was writing out things. It was about 3 weeks ago, and I write out, I'm so grateful for my husband. I'm so grateful for my dad. And I'm like, I need to mention the fact that I'm really grateful for my health, because Omni was really sick. And I suddenly thought, I've forgotten that we need to pay gratitude for the fact that when we don't have it, how much we will not be feeling like we take it for granted.
Yes, exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And you're setting your intention for the day. I forgot about that. That is I didn't forget, like I haven't done it, but that's another great way to put yourself in that state of mind. And none of this takes hours. Once again, people think they have this stereotype. A lot of people, when you talk to them, tell them, let's just put it, mindfulness, as you know, is a catchphrase these days. Yeah. And people see, then they go, oh, it's a fad, or it's this or this. And, and when National Geographic, this is probably reversed, I don't know, but when National Geographic even comes out with a special issue on mindfulness, then and once something becomes something that sounds trendy, people tend to mock it or scoff at it, make fun of it. Yeah. And they really shouldn't. In this case, shouldn't, because it's not something that to take the time to be mindful in your life, or meditate, or set your intentions for the day. None of this takes hours. I mean, if you've got hours, great, do it. But most of us don't. You've got a child and a husband and a career and all that, and we all have these things, and it really only takes about 5 minutes. Absolutely. If that, and to be present in the moment, if you just figure out the technique that works for you, within seconds you can be present in the moment and be mindful, and then move on to what else you were doing or what you need to do. But it's not like you have to be sitting there in a room full of crystals, in the lotus position, with incense burning or any of that stuff. Like I said, I'm sitting here in my Prius up the Pacific Coast Highway in a kind of scrunchy position.
Well, I think I can make it even more geekified. The fact that when I do those things, like setting the intention, writing out my gratitude, being the kind of logical person that I am, because I come from corporate. I worked in technology. That was my background. But when I do it now, I have a spreadsheet. So it's geeky, but I actually force myself every day. I'm like, okay, what's shifted for me? Where am I at? What's going on today in the moment? So that I I'm somehow even holding myself accountable.
I like that. Do you keep a journal? Are you a person who writes a journal or?
I do journals. I have journal notebooks, but at the
Mhm.
end of the day, what I've often found is that you lose that notebook, or sometimes you write too long, you forget. Like I, they're all important. They're all part of my practice. But when it comes to that morning 5 minutes, just it can be as simple as just opening up a Word document or Google Doc and just jotting it down, and just every day just saying, "Here's the date. This is what I'm setting my intention for. Here's what I'm grateful for. And here's some things that I always have this one line that says, "What's going on today?"
Mm-hmm. Well, I like that. All of this is, man, it's so important. It really is. I mean, you and I at this point have lost friends and family members, and we do see how precious life is and how it can be with us for 100 years, or it can be gone in a few years. And I think so. I think it's interesting, really, how just talking to you, I realized that, like I said, meditation and mindfulness, setting intentions, and gratitude, they really are all in that same sphere, all connected.
Yeah.
All of that connected. And I come from the television background on a soundstage as a script supervisor on sitcoms, where it's tons of rehearsals and line changes, and then in front of a live audience shooting the show, and the incredible pressure, the fun, but the pressure and the speed of it, and the accuracy and that my job entails. And it's very hard to, at the same time, you have to take that time to think, okay, what is it that by the end of the day, what is it that I would like to accomplish? It doesn't have to be great things, but how do I want this day to go?
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way. How do I want this day to go in a perfect world? And then, when we talk about stuff like that, well, then we're talking about the power of the mind. Thoughts become things, and what you put out there, you create that frequency.
Yes. Yes.
And then attract things back to you. And once again, I apologize to anybody who might be watching this and going, oh my God, she's using all those catchphrases. But there's a reason why this stuff is being written about so much, and why classes are being taught. And all this is because all of this stuff, it really is important, and it really adds so much to your life. I think I have found how much that this just taking those moments to slow for a second, think, be aware. There was a book that came out in the 1960s. My father owned this book, and I read it at a ridiculously early age for a kid. It was Ram Dass's "Be Here Now."
I think it's on my bookshelf.
Yes, it's a great book. And in fact, there's a marvelous documentary out right now on Ram Dass. It was produced. It was filmed towards the end of his life, and it was and if you want to see a mindful person, a person who's in the moment, a person full of gratitude, a most extraordinary and interesting and different life, but definitely find the Ram Dass documentary and watch it. But yes, that phrase, even as a kid, because it was boldly written on the cover of the book, and it said "Be Here Now," and I wasn't sure as a little kid what that meant. Because as you're a kid, you are very present in the moment, aren't we? I mean, isn't it true? As a kid, you were at school, and you were very present in the classroom, and you were very present on the playground, and you were very present with your friends, and whatever you were doing at that moment, you were all in.
Yeah.
And when we were kids, and as a grown-up, we have lost that ability because we have all these distractions.
Absolutely.
Because we've taken on more and more and more. Happily so, sometimes we have to work and support ourselves. We chose to either have families or loved ones or boyfriends or girlfriends or spouses, whatever, pets, whatever, and taken on all this stuff. And it's very easy to, we aren't present in our moment the way we were with kids. I mean, if you think about how you were in elementary school, and and can't you, here's the crazy thing, and I'm just thought about this. I can sit there and remember myself in my second grade class with Mrs. Ferguson. And I can remember the details of that classroom and the fact that if you were good, you got a lemon drop from her, and how she handed out the lemon drops if you were good at the end of the day, what PE felt like, what playing handball felt like, what I was wearing. I can remember second grade. And for the life of me, I'm going, what did I wear yesterday? Okay, I ran these errands, I did this, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, how did I start my morning? And that's the difference. And that's what we need to, as adults, practice a little more getting back into. Like, wake up in the morning, be aware of your breath, be aware of your feet touching the floor, how your body feels. And once again, none of this means that we're moving in slow motion or anything crazy like that. It just means that at that moment, be aware of yourself in that moment, in this world, in your life.
What I feel like is these catchphrases, or what people think is just superficial, I don't know, whatever they want to label it as such. But I like to challenge people that say those things. That how many times have you said, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain, or I can't handle this. This is, I just lost somebody I love so much. Or what does this mean? Why is there a war there? Why are people being tortured? And I often think that we become, as modern society, maybe it's always been like this, and the human condition's always been the same, and we're just recognizing it, is that we're thinking that's outside of me. But what if you start taking a different perspective, that what you're going through, what you're experiencing, is really about your soul. And you're so much more than you think you are. You're so much more the body, the mind, the external conditions. That's where the energy comes in. We're so much
right. More. Yeah, well, we are pure energy. I mean, that's this whole thing that we're given.
Yeah.
Is pure energy. So yeah, we're not just our jobs. We're not just what we do or any of that stuff. We have, these are some pretty amazing vessels we've been given to walk around on this planet. And there's so much wonderful stuff to experience with it if you just take the time and the moments to really see and feel what's happening right now, and not be always thinking about the next thing you have to do and the next 5 things you have to do. That's so important.
And that moment to moment awareness also ties back to recognizing that there's so much of a, for lack of a better word, higher connection.
Yes.
And we forget, because sometimes I'll see people going through some tragic moments, and what I'll see, like at least on Facebook, I'll see it. There'll be profanity and disgust, and oh, I can't believe this happened to me, which I feel compassion about, but I also feel like maybe there's so much more to you than this condition. And not saying that there's nothing more beyond you, like the universe. People think it's too esoteric, but what if you are connected to something bigger?
Well, I think the lovely part is, I think that more and more people are realizing this now.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because they're seeing they're seeing that life can be very finite, and this planet can be finite.
Yes.
We certainly are living in some very interesting times right now. And by that, I don't mean that it's bad. There are things that are not good things happening on this planet and happening to people on a daily basis. But there are also opportunities to become better human beings.
Yeah.
And to appreciate more of the good that we do have in our lives. Yeah. And I do see that too. I see that, when friends, but you also notice that some of these friends who constantly, and people that we know constantly post about these terrible things that are happening to them, are attracting more and more terrible things. It doesn't seem to get better. And like I said, you and I both, we're very blessed in our lives. I know we are, even though we've certainly had tragedies in our lives, just like everybody does. That's part of the human experience. You're going to lose people you love. You're going to lose jobs or get disappointed or get injured or whatever it is. This is just part of being a human being. But if you can turn around those times, I mean, when they're happening at the moment, if you're not going to be sitting here in like some sort of a moron going, oh, I'm getting a great gift out of this. No. That doesn't happen at the time it's happening. Yeah. But sometime during that process, when this is going on, when you can step back from it for a second and say to yourself, what are the gifts that I'm getting from this? Yeah. I mean, there is a gift somewhere in this. It may not be the most beautifully wrapped gift in the world, but it is a gift. If it is a gift that makes you, I'll give you the example of the top example I can think about. I can give you two actually that have been a big part of my life. One of them was my father passing away when I was 27, and it was he got a brain tumor and all this other stuff. I mean, what possible gift could any person get from their father passing away too young? Somebody who they adored with all and had looked forward to, doing fun things with for the rest of their lives, and that was cut short. That promise was cut short. And once you get through the grief and once that, I remember stepping back and saying, well, what have I gotten from this? There's got to be a gift from this. And the gift was this. My father passed away at 60 years old. And I turned 60 this year. And I have now outlived my father. And it made me do more things in my life that I wanted to do. Yeah. In my bio, that you have, I've script supervisor, photographer, magazine writer, and editor, erstwhile artist, and I've done, people say to me, oh, you've done so many things, you do so many interesting things, and so much about so many things. But that was the gift of my father passing away early. That was part of the gift because I went, life is short. Unexpected things can happen. He was the healthiest guy you've ever met in your life, and he got a brain tumor out of the blue. And so if there's stuff that interests you, if there's stuff that's in you that you want to get out creatively or whatever, don't hesitate. Do it. Find a way to do it, and don't waste time saying, well, someday I'm going to do that, and someday I'm going to do that, because you can get thrown a curveball. So in a sad sort of a weird way, my father passing away, which nobody would ever see as a gift, there were gifts involved with that incident, yes, with that tragedy, yes, And the other one is that I've always struggled. I hate the word struggle. I've always had a situation with my weight. I love to cook. I love to eat. My weight's gone up. My weight's gone down. It's this way, and I've been finding a great balance in it now through eating better and exercising more, which is great. But there was a time in my life when I was really, really big, and that lasted for several years. And it was triggered by some really stressful things going on in my life at that time. And you think to yourself, well, what possible gift could you get from being overweight for years? I mean, certainly it's not a gift to your health, right? And it's certainly not a gift, to yourself as a person in any way. But the gift is that it has made me a more compassionate person. When I see people who are heavy or people who have health issues or whatever, or do emotional eating, whether it's bulimia or overeating, I have compassion. I understand where they're coming from, and I've been able to help counsel people because of my own experience with it. And that is a gift, that, you see these people and because you've been through it yourself, you have an extra layer of compassion for people who are similar.
I couldn't agree more. For each point of pain that I've experienced, I feel that it became my choice to use that script and say, do I want to go down a path of further tragedy, Or like, as you know, I lost my mom, and that really triggered what I call my second act. And I believe that, I read somewhere that I think his name is Dan Gilbert. He's a happiness expert. And he said the
Mhm.
person we are now, people have this illusion that the person we are now is the person we'll always be. But that's
Mhm.
not the case. That's an illusion. We're,
Mhm.
we have the choice to continually improve and have a new second act, or we can continually stay stuck in a certain place. But what you described as having all these things that you do makes its life so much more richer.
Mhm.
I feel like you've got these multiple second acts, and along with the pain, you've grown compassionate.
Yeah. And isn't that what it's really supposed to be? I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that in the last, what has it been, 5 years, 10 years? Well, meditation came in to the United States and to Western culture back in the 1960s, I would say. That's when
Yeah.
transcendental meditation and all that stuff became, this thing.
Well,
And
like
then
Yogananda brought it.
that's
Yeah, Paramahansa Yogananda.
that's right.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that, and then from there we've gone through gratitude, and there's Marianne Williamson, and there's the online Mind Valley courses, and all this stuff has happened in the last, let me see, I have to do math, hold on, the last 60 years or so has been this interest in all of this and an embracing of all of this, and that doesn't happen by accident. I think that happens because we as human beings need this. We've
Yeah.
gotten to a point in our evolving selves
Mhm.
at this point in our human history that we need this.
Yeah.
These things, they've come to us for a reason, and
Yes.
they are part of the mainstream conversation and words in Webster dictionaries now because they're needed and they're valid, and they work for so many people.
An interesting thing you should say about that is it goes back to our point about pain triggers and the path it leads you down. It,
Mm-hmm.
I was raised with this because I'm Hindu, Indian,
Yeah.
so it was really common to see my parents sitting down and meditating in the morning. I was around it my entire life, and self-realization was part of what I was raised with since I was like a kid, a baby.
Yeah.
However, I, like most Westerners, went through the cycle of losing sight of all of that. And it wasn't until the trigger of the pain truly pushed me towards wanting to really evaluate what path I want to go down. So while I knew of meditation and I did it, it wasn't until my mom passed away that I actually honed in on these things and actually walked away from corporate because of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Um, uh, yeah, well, a little bit of a tangent because I want to ask you another question, but a few months before the pandemic hit,
Mm-hmm.
I had this long epiphany. It's something I've written about, but let's just say that I signed up to become a meditation coach. And for a year before that, I had sort of walked away from corporate, trying to find myself in my 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what I did. However, I just felt like there was something missing in my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got the certification, and that's where I'm like, I'm going to make this a business and help other women. I think women need it.
I do too. I think well, I think we agree everybody needs it, but women do. We are natural born multitaskers,
Oh, yes.
and whether we have children or not, if
Yeah.
we don't have children, we seem to take on. I know I do.
Yeah.
Take on extra stuff because that just is our nature,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we absolutely do. Um, I there's so much there's nothing bad about taking that moment to appreciate where you are
Mm-hmm.
and what you're doing and see what's going on around you.
Yeah.
I mean, when people sit there, if anybody sits there and makes any kind of fun about it or joke about it, it's like, well, what's the alternative?
Well, that's exactly why I brought up the tragedy thing. Like when I went through my own tragedy, and I had
Mhm.
known my entire life that those are triggers where some people go either totally spiritual or go down a path that can be self-destructive. I've done
Mhm.
both at different times, right?
Yes, I do. I have too. I think everybody has.
Yeah, and I feel like I was saved somehow because
Hmm.
just the right amount of guidance or cues were given to me to go down a
Hmm.
path that now I can help others. But you don't have to. What I like to tell people is you don't have to wait until those tragedies or things occur. In fact, if you start early, almost like preemptively, then
Hmm.
you're energetically pulling yourself in a better place.
Yes.
And you may not even encountered some of the dark stuff at all because you've already shifted your direction, your
Yes.
trajectory of your life,
Yes.
you know?
Very, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. So tell me, I want to know more about, like I said, you got out of the corporate world
Yeah. So,
and you've made it, and you found a way to do this full time and do your podcast show. And once again, that's to me just inspiring that you've taken something that means so much to you and have found a way to to put it at the forefront of your life, and to do something with it, not just talk about it.
the short version of the story, I kind of alluded to some of the details, but I had been in corporate. My background is in computer science. I had worked really hard to get all my degrees, and I would say I was one of the forefront like people in doing the niche thing that I did. It's called user experience, research and design. I was one of the early predecessors to the field, and I loved it. I still love it, but I experienced some really challenging moments in corporate, and I was managing it. It was fine. Like I figured it was tough, but I got paid well. But it all kind of came to a head. I feel like I was at the pinnacle of my career, and when I arrived from a 14-hour flight, I was greeted by my husband, who told me that my mom had suddenly passed away while I was in flight. From that point till now, which has now been close to 9 years, I slowly walked away from work. And like I mentioned, just before COVID, I decided I'm going to become a coach. And it's not been easy because it's right now one income versus two incomes in California with a
Right.
mortgage, right? But I'm dedicated to trying to build this business. So the podcast is one way to reach my audience. And I really think through what kind of topics are relevant for today's modern woman, and how can I provide practical tips to make the concept of mindfulness something that we integrate and it's not an afterthought. Because I think that when it becomes an afterthought, that's when some people can become nasty to one another because they're not mindful, and then the effect is felt. Because I remember being in corporate and thinking there are a lot of unpleasant people around here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I found that to be. I think everybody finds that in whatever job they're in. I mean, even in the business of making people laugh, working in the sitcom business, there've been. I've been blessed that there's so many people I've worked with on so many shows have been wonderful. But yeah, then you sit there and go, you're we're in the business of making funny stuff, and why are there people working on this show who are anything but and are not even nice, and are just creating havoc and stress. And once again, though, you have to get through it, and you have to sit there and go, all right, but look at all these wonderful other good things that I'm doing. You know, look at this fantastic studio I get to work at. Look at this and that, the other. Just work around it, work around it.
Thanks again for tuning in. Check out the links in the description, and please subscribe, follow, and share, and continue to practice Omni Mindfulness.